What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Touchdowns to Home Runs. My name is Bernie. Thank you for joining us today on the Touchdowns to Home Runs show. I hope that your day is going absolutely fantastic. We finally reached the conclusion of this year's NFL season, which means it's time for me to give you my predictions and picks for this year's NFL playoff bracket. Now, if you aren't already subscribed, make sure to subscribe to Touchdowns to Home Runs for full coverage of this year's NFL playoffs, and I hope you enjoy the video. First up, we'll start with the AFC, and the Kansas City Chiefs finished the AFC as the number 1 seed, so they'll get a first round bye and also home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs finished the year with a record of 14-2, but only really with one true loss, which was to the Raiders because they rested players in Week 17. But in my opinion, Chiefs definitely one of, if not the most talented teams on paper. The first actual matchup that we have in the wild card round is the Buffalo Bills versus the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Buffalo Bills come into this game with a record of 13-3, and the Bills have had an absolutely fantastic season. They have the most points for in the NFL and an electric offense led by Josh Allen, who's been a little inconsistent at times, but for the most part is definitely looking like a franchise quarterback for Buffalo. I'm a very big fan of the Bills secondary, and also they got more experience this year and are looking to bounce back after their very disappointing loss to the Texans in last year's playoffs. In terms of the Colts, we also have one of the best defenses in the AFC, a lot of experience, especially when you look at them with Rivers at the quarterback position. You know, they're a team who's extremely consistent, one of the only teams I would say in the AFC that you really know what you're going to get from them week in and week out. But with that being said, I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills here. Next up, we have the matchup between the 12-4 Pittsburgh Steelers against the 11-5 Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cleveland Browns just barely got into the playoffs and are quite lucky to have done so with their loss against the Jets 2 weeks ago. And then this past week, they narrowly escaped with the win against the Steelers, who are resting a lot of their starters. But with that being said, the Steelers have not been great in the past 5 weeks or so, but still come into this game with the second least points allowed in the AFC. And they got some much needed rest in Week 17 by resting their starters, because the Steelers haven't really had a true bye week this entire year due to the pandemic situation. In terms of the Browns, they're an extremely inconsistent team. They're the only team in the AFC playoffs that has a negative point differential. But I still like this matchup for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So here, I'm going to be taking the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next up, we have the Titans and the Ravens, both coming into this game with records of 11-5. And it's a rematch of one of the most interesting games in last year's NFL postseason, where the Tennessee Titans surprised everybody and upset Baltimore. The Titans do not have a fantastic secondary, but anytime that you have a top player, top talent, and the top running back in the league in Derrick Henry, you give yourself a chance to win. I'm not that much of a fan of Tennessee. I think their offense is a little one-dimensional, and I don't like what they do in the passing game. But we'll have to see what happens. In terms of the Ravens, they come into this game as one of the more hotter teams in the NFL on a 5-game win streak. And obviously with Lamar Jackson, also a tremendous runner, you obviously have a chance to win this game as well. For this game, I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens. I think they're just the overall more complete team, and I like that they're the hotter team coming into this matchup. Let's flip over to the NFC now, where it's the Green Bay Packers who finished first in the NFC. They'll get the first round bye and home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs with their 13-3 record after their win against the Chicago Bears. Speaking of the Chicago Bears, they'll come into the postseason with an 8-8 record and face probably one of the best teams in the NFC in the 12-4 New Orleans Saints. The Bears are probably lucky to have gotten into the postseason. They lost in Week 17, but they got some help from the Rams, who beat the Cardinals, to put the Bears into the postseason. But Chicago was pretty good down the stretch in the important games at the end of the season, with wins in Week 14, Week 15, and Week 16. The Bears, though, have the worst point differential in the NFC and probably the second worst offense in terms of playoff teams when we look at the Washington football team. In terms of the New Orleans Saints, they've been fantastic this season when Drew Brees is their starting quarterback, and it looks like he's going to be healthy for the playoffs. They have the best point differential in the NFC, and in my opinion, they're the most talented team when we look at the rosters on paper. So Bears, Saints, I'll be taking the New Orleans Saints. Next up, we have the matchup between the 12-4 Seattle Seahawks against the 10-6 LA Rams. Now, these two teams played 2 times during the regular season and split the season series. Expect another great matchup between DK Metcalf and Jalen Ramsey. One thing I do have to point out, though, is I'm not a fan at all of the secondary of the Seattle Seahawks. And on the flip side, the Rams have one of the best defenses in the NFL, at least one of the best defenses in the NFC. The Rams have struggled a bit lately, but I'm definitely a fan of Sean McVay. And again, I'm a big fan of this Rams defense, so I'm actually taking the Rams here to upset the Seattle Seahawks. Next up, we have the Washington football team, who come into this game with the record of 7-9 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have a record of 11-5. Washington is probably the worst team in the NFC playoffs on paper, who really only got in because of the weak division of the NFC East. But when we look at the Washington football team on paper, they have made some serious improvements, especially defensively. The Bucs, on the other hand, are a two-sided team who are really, really good offensively and defensively. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Buccaneers myself, but again, on paper, extremely talented roster and who have played extremely, extremely good offense, especially in the later part of the season. So here, I'm taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Moving back over to the AFC, we have the Chiefs against the Ravens. Now, if the Ravens do make this game, it would be extremely, extremely interesting because they would be one of the hottest teams in the NFL. Again, coming into this game on what would be a 6-game win streak. And whenever you have a guy like Lamar Jackson who can do as much as he can at the quarterback position, you give yourself a chance to win the game. In my opinion, though, the Chiefs are just too talented, and you have Mahomes, who in my opinion is the best quarterback in the NFL. You have an extremely, extremely talented wide receiver core, one of the most electric offenses in the NFL, and a very underrated and very, very talented defense. I think in this game, the Ravens will play somewhat decent, but I don't see the Chiefs losing on a bye week. Next up, we have the Steelers versus the Bills, and this one would also be a very interesting matchup, loaded with a ton of young talent. We look at the Bills, a guy like Josh Allen. We go to the Steelers, and we look at, for example, how young their wide receiver core is. Big Ben would be a huge factor in this game. The Steelers' offense has been really, really inconsistent this entire year, really, but I don't see them scoring too much in this game. I'm a big fan, again, of that Bills secondary, and I think their offense is just improved and more consistent at this point in the season. The Steelers are more than capable of winning this game, but we'll have to see what their rest in Week 17 will do for them, and I think that the way that they play in the wild card week will be a huge factor of who I actually take when this game arrives, but for right now, I'm taking the Buffalo Bills. Next up, we have the Packers versus the Rams, and this matchup is very interesting because if this matchup does happen, it means that the Rams come off a very impressive upset win over the Seattle Seahawks and their divisional rivals. When we look at the Packers, though, they're one of the best teams on both sides of the football. But in my opinion, in this particular matchup, I think they would have trouble scoring points against this very solid Rams defense. I think if the Rams offense can find a way to run the football and spread open the Packers defense, I definitely think they can put up more points than people think, and I actually like the Rams here to upset the one-seeded Packers. Next up, we have the Saints versus the Bucs, and again, I'm not a huge fan of the Buccaneers, but what they've done, especially in the second half of the season, is really, really impressive. When we look at a team that brings consistency to the table, the Buccaneers are that team. They've only scored under 25 points one time this season, and again, they have an electric offense and a pretty good defense as well. But in my opinion, the Saints are the best team in the NFC. When Drew Brees is healthy, they've been absolutely fantastic, especially offensively. Plus, they've already beaten the Buccaneers 2 times this year. I think it's a more winnable game for the Buccaneers than most people give them credit for or will give them credit for, but here I'm taking the New Orleans Saints. For the AFC title game, I would have the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Buffalo Bills would be coming into this game with a ton of momentum and on an 8-game winning streak. As I was saying before, I absolutely love this team, especially offensively, and I'm a big fan of their secondary, and they just have more experience than they did in last year's postseason. But in terms of the Chiefs, only one true loss since Week 5, and probably, in my opinion, the most talented team in the NFL. I would love for this to be a close game, but I don't think this is Josh Allen or Buffalo Bills' time to get to the Super Bowl, but it's going to be really interesting to see what Josh Allen can do in the big game. So I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. In the NFC, I would have the Rams against the Saints, another really interesting matchup, and the Rams who would be coming off 2 very impressive wins against the Seahawks and the Packers. But this would be an even tougher matchup against the New Orleans Saints and a healthy Drew Brees, and I don't think that the Rams would be having a very fun time offensively against the Saints defense. If this is Drew Brees' final season, I mean, this would be a fairy tale ending to have a Super Bowl appearance and a shot to win your second Super Bowl. So I would have the Saints going to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. In the Super Bowl matchup, I would have the Kansas City Chiefs playing the New Orleans Saints. The Kansas City Chiefs would be going for back-to-back Super Bowl titles, and the Saints would be going for their Super Bowl title in Drew Brees' last game. This would be a very interesting matchup. I think both of these two teams have very underrated defenses and obviously two very electric offenses. I would love for Drew Brees to get the job done here, but I think this is a very similar matchup to last year's Super Bowl where the Chiefs played the 49ers. I think because the Chiefs have the offensive advantage, I think the Chiefs get it done here, and I have the Chiefs winning this year's Super Bowl. If you guys did make it to this point in the video, thank you. Let me know your thoughts and predictions for this year's NFL playoffs down in the comment section below. What do you think I got right? What do you think I got wrong? What would you change? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to Touchdowns to Home Runs for more NFL content just like this throughout this year's NFL playoffs. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.